The council chamber of the Salythian throne world was larger than any human city hall I had ever seen. Towering ceilings, walls inlaid with pulsating bioluminescent veins, and a floor that subtly shifted beneath your feet to indicate your place in the hierarchy. It was intimidating in ways I couldn't articulate. I had been called here as a technical consultant. Apparently, a human engineer with experience in gravitational drive systems was rare enough that the Salythian High Council decided my presence warranted more ceremony than I had anticipated. The alien queen herself sat upon a throne that seemed to grow organically from the floor, twisting upward like the roots of some colossal tree. Her presence dominated the room, and her guards, towering beings with metallic exoskeletons, stood at precise attention around her. I had never felt smaller, and yet I could not resist a joke. "So," I said, shifting awkwardly, trying to break the tension, "what if I married you?" I instantly regretted the words. The chamber went silent. Even the subtle hum of the ceiling lights seemed to pause. I glanced around, expecting someone to chuckle, or at least murmur. Nothing. Then, slowly, the queen raised a hand. One of her slender, clawed fingers. And all the guards, including the ones who had seemed impervious to human presence, stepped back. Not a gesture, not a bow. They left, one by one, until the room was empty of anyone but us. I froze. My mind raced, trying to calculate whether this was a trap. The legends about Salythian diplomacy did not include leaving a human alone with the queen after a joke about marriage. "Do you realize what you just said?" Her voice was melodic, almost hypnotic, and carried authority without a trace of threat. I stammered. "It was a joke. I didn't mean—" "You did not think it," she interrupted, leaning forward slightly. Her amber eyes were sharper than any blade I had ever seen, and yet they held a curiosity I could not read. "Or you are testing me?" "Neither," I said carefully, just trying to lighten the mood. She studied me for a long moment, silent, unmoving, until I began to feel uncomfortable in a way I hadn't felt since my first year as an engineer. I had worked on starships that carried hundreds of lives. I had survived plasma storms that could rip a ship in two. Yet here I was, unnerved by a single look. "You joke about what mortals cannot comprehend," she said finally. "You speak of union as if it were a trifle." I didn't mean to offend," I said quickly. "No offense was taken," she said, but her eyes narrowed. "I want to understand you. The beginning, an unexpected invitation. I had expected dismissal or perhaps a swift escort out of the chamber. Instead, the queen gestured toward the room's far end, where a small, floating platform awaited. "You will come with me," she said. "I want you to see our city, not as a visitor, but as a participant." Sure," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. "Lead the way." The platform rose, carrying us over terraces, waterfalls of glowing plasma, and bridges woven from living fibers. Citizens, creatures of every conceivable shape and color, paused to stare. Not with hostility, but recognition. Some bowed subtly. Others merely tilted their heads. I was learning quickly that everything about this world was calculated to remind you of the Queen's power and her people's loyalty. "So," I said nervously, trying to regain my humor, "if this were a human city, I'd be dating a royal by now." Her laughter was unexpected. It wasn't cruel or mocking. It was melodic, reverberating lightly in the air. But then her expression hardened. "You do not understand," she said. "In our society, a suggestion such as you made carries meaning." Look, it was just— "No," she interrupted, holding up a hand. "I want you to see why it matters. The middle. Lessons in Salythian culture." She brought me to the Hall of Ancestral Mirrors, a chamber filled with reflective surfaces that recorded and displayed the lives of Salythian rulers across millennia. I saw queens and kings who had ruled through wars, diplomacy, and cunning strategy. I saw alliances formed not by choice but by necessity, and bonds that lasted centuries. "You ask for marriage lightly," the queen said. "But here, union is a covenant. It is a bond of survival, trust, and influence. It is not entered casually." I had no idea, I admitted. I know humans have traditions, but this is something else entirely. She studied me for a long moment, and then a small gesture, barely perceptible, indicated I should continue. "Honestly," I said, feeling more comfortable in honesty than humor, "I guess I asked because you're intimidating and powerful. And, well, you command loyalty like no one I've ever seen. And I don't know, maybe it was curiosity, not a serious thought." She tilted her head, and I thought I saw amusement in her gaze again. "You are human," she said. "Curiosity is a dangerous trait among your kind, yet admirable." I blinked. "Dangerous?" "Yes," she replied. "It is what brought your species to the stars, but also what brings you into situations you are not prepared for." The choice I never expected. The conversation continued for what felt like hours. She asked about my life, my skills, and my experiences in human space. I asked about her court, her people, and the rules she followed as queen. The more we spoke, the more I realized that my joke had become a bridge, a way to see the queen as more than a figurehead, and for her to see me as more than a human outsider. Finally, she stopped and said, "You may leave this chamber now, Jonah Reeves. You may continue your life as you have, or you may stay." I frowned. Stay? Here? To learn, to see, to understand. "Perhaps one day to make a real choice," she said. "Marriage is not a game. But perhaps, if you survive this world and prove worthy, you may one day ask again." Not in jest. I swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed against my chest. I had come expecting a simple consultation on engines and repairs. Instead, I had been offered a glimpse of a civilization so advanced it was almost incomprehensible, and a personal invitation that carried implications I could scarcely imagine. "I thank you," I said finally. "I'll need time to understand."
"Good," she said.
"Time is precious, yet infinite in its lessons. Guard it well, human." The ending, a joke that became something more. I left the chamber feeling lighter and heavier at once. Light because I had survived the encounter without offending or dying. Heavy because I had glimpsed a future I had never considered. Weeks passed. I returned to my engineering work, but my thoughts often drifted back to the queen, her voice, her laughter, the way the guards had obeyed her single gesture. I realized that my joke had been more than a joke. It had been an opportunity. One day, as I worked on a gravity drive calibration, a small message arrived on my comlink. Not from the queen herself, but from her personal aide. "The queen would like to continue your lessons. You may arrive at your convenience." I looked at the stars outside the station window, wondering what I would find next. The joke I had made in the grand chamber had become a key. Not a binding contract, not a marriage, not yet, but a door into a world I could never have imagined, and perhaps, one day, a bond that might mean more than I could currently understand. I smiled. Somehow, I knew that the moment I had laughed aloud in the council chamber was not the end, but the beginning.